Don't touch me. Victoria Ashford pulled both hands behind her back. The black man's outstretched hand hung in the air between them. I don't shake hands with people who can't even spell algorithm. She stepped backward, eyes scanning him head to toe. Security really should check badges more carefully. Anyone can just walk in here now? The ballroom went silent. 500 tech executives turned to stare. I apologize if Elijah Brooks began, his voice calm. You apologize? Victoria laughed. Do you even know where you are? This is a conference for actual investors, real money, not a diversity theater. She waved her hand dismissively, like shooing a fly. Move. You're blocking my view of the stage. Elijah lowered his hand slowly, adjusted his cufflinks, smiled slightly. Good luck with your presentation today, Ms. Ashford. He turned and walked away with quiet dignity. Have you ever seen someone burn their only bridge to survival? What happened next destroyed her in 72 hours, 48 hours earlier. Elijah Brooks stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his Palo Alto penthouse. Morning sun painted the Stanford campus gold below. His French press sat cooling on the marble counter. Bloomberg terminals blinked with real-time market data across 3 mounted screens. His phone buzzed. Managing partner calling. Morning, David. The next-gen analytics file just hit your inbox. The conference is Friday. They're desperate. Elijah scrolled through the report on his tablet. Revenue projections declining. Cash reserves are critical. Board pushing for emergency funding. How desperate? 30 days until they fold. They need $150 million. We're the only fund still taking meetings. Elijah had built Brooks Capital Ventures from nothing 5 years ago. 2 successful startup exits before age 30 had given him the capital. MIT computer science degree had given him the knowledge. Growing up poor in Detroit had given him hunger. Now his fund controlled $2.8 billion, 23 portfolio companies, Forbes Midas list 3 years running. He dressed simply that morning. Black t-shirt, dark jeans, no logos, no signals. People showed you who they really were when they thought you had nothing. Across the city, Victoria Ashford stepped out of her Tesla in the Fairmont Hotel's underground garage. Her assistant trailed behind, juggling 3 coffees and a presentation binder. Did you confirm the investor meetings? Victoria didn't look back. Yes, but what? Some of the VCs canceled this morning. They said scheduling conflicts. Victoria's jaw tightened. Who canceled? Sequoia, Andreessen, Benchmark. 3 of the biggest names in Silicon Valley. Victoria's hands trembled slightly as she took her latte. The foam art was wrong. This is oat milk. I said almond. She thrust it back. Do it again. Her assistant's face fell. The barista is right there. I don't pay you to make excuses. Victoria had inherited wealth, Stanford legacy admission. Her father's connections had opened every door. She'd never been told no. Next-gen analytics had seemed unstoppable 3 years ago. $800 million valuation. Cutting-edge data intelligence platform. But competitors had caught up. Clients had left. The board had started asking hard questions. She needed this conference, needed new investors, needed them to believe the pivot story. In the hotel lobby, she passed a janitor emptying trash cans. Latino, middle-aged. He nodded politely. Victoria didn't acknowledge him. She never looked at service workers. Her phone showed 7 missed calls from her CFO. She ignored them. He'd been warning her about the cash situation for months, talking about layoffs, cost cuts. She didn't want to hear it. The ballroom was filling with tech executives, suits, startup founders in hoodies, venture capitalists scanning the room for the next unicorn. Victoria's executive team clustered near the bar. The presentation deck is loaded, her CMO said. 45 minutes, then Q&A. The journalist from TechCrunch is in the third row. Good. Make sure she sees the revenue projections on slide 12. Victoria, about those numbers. They're accurate, forward-looking. Investors understand growth metrics. Her CMO exchanged a glance with the CFO. Neither spoke. A conference organizer approached with a clipboard. Ms. Ashford, we're honored to have you. Just a reminder, we have several major funds here today. Make sure you network during the cocktail hour. I always do. Victoria scanned the room. Anyone I should know about? Well, there's a mystery investor who requested privacy. Very influential. His fund controls billions. Victoria's interest sharpened. Name? He prefers to stay low profile until the keynote tomorrow. Point him out when he arrives. The organizer hesitated. I'm not sure I'd recognize him. He doesn't do photos. Victoria waved her off. Real power announced itself. You could always tell money by the watch, the shoes, the suit. She accepted a champagne flute from a passing waiter, scanned the room again. Sequoia had canceled. Andreessen had canceled. But someone big was here. Someone who could write $150 million check. She just had to find him. At the back of the ballroom, Elijah Brooks entered quietly. No entourage, no business cards ready. He'd learned long ago that the best deals happened when people didn't know who you were. He watched Victoria holding court near the stage. Loud laugh, dismissive gestures toward her assistant, the kind of person who treated staff like furniture. His phone buzzed. Text from David. Did you see her leadership team composition? Elijah had seen. Had 8 executives, all white, in the most diverse region in America. He'd almost passed on this deal already, but he believed in second chances. Everyone deserved the benefit of the doubt. He straightened his shirt and walked toward her circle. The networking reception hummed with conversations about valuations and market disruptions. Elijah moved through the crowd with practiced ease. He'd been studying next-gen for 3 weeks. Good technology, terrible leadership. Victoria's voice carried across the room. She stood surrounded by 5 executives, all holding champagne, all laughing at her jokes. Elijah approached the circle's edge. And that's why we don't waste time on... Victoria stopped mid-sentence. Her eyes landed on him, scanned his black t-shirt, his jeans, his lack of a conference badge on a lanyard. Her CMO noticed him, too. Excuse me, can you bring us more champagne? The circle went quiet. Elijah smiled. I'm actually here for the conference. Awkward silence. Someone coughed. Oh. The CMO's face reddened. Sorry, I thought... Victoria didn't apologize. She turned back to her conversation, dismissing him with her posture. Elijah waited a moment, then cleared his throat gently. Ms. Ashford, I've been following NextGen's Q3 pivot. Impressive move into healthcare data. Victoria's shoulders stiffened. She turned slowly, eyes narrowed. And you are? Elijah Brooks. He extended his hand. I work in venture capital. Victoria's gaze traveled from his face to his outstretched hand. She looked at it like he'd offered her garbage. She didn't move. Instead, she placed both hands deliberately behind her back, stepped backward. Her nose wrinkled. I don't shake hands with people who probably can't even spell algorithm. The circle froze. Champagne glasses stopped halfway to lips. Elijah's hand remained extended, steady, patient. Victoria continued. This conference has really lowered its standards. Security should check badges more carefully. Anyone can just walk in off the street now? A few executives shifted uncomfortably. One looked at his phone. Another suddenly needed a refill. I apologize if... Elijah began. You apologize? Victoria's laugh was cold. Let me guess. Diversity hire at some mid-tier fund? They gave you a fancy title and sent you to the network? Her CFO touched her elbow. Victoria, maybe we should... She shook him off. I'm sure you're very articulate, but Next Gen requires sophisticated investors, people who understand complex financial instruments. Elijah slowly lowered his hand. His face remained calm, pleasant even. Where did you go to school? Victoria tilted her head. Community college? Online program? MIT, actually. Elijah's voice stayed level. Victoria snorted. Right. And I'm sure that's where you learned to crash professional events. She waved her hand dismissively, like shooing a fly. Can you move? You're blocking my view of the stage. The conference organizer rushed over, face flushed. Ms. Ashford, I was just about to introduce... I don't need introductions to party crashers. Victoria cut her off. She pulled out her phone, held it up. Should I call security, or will he leave on his own? Phones emerged from pockets around them. Recording lights blinked red. Elijah adjusted his cufflinks. Tom Ford, $500. Victoria didn't notice. I understand completely. His voice remained steady. I hope your presentation goes well, Ms. Ashford. He turned with dignity, walked away without a hurry. Behind him, Victoria laughed loudly. Did you see that? The audacity! This is exactly why we maintain hiring standards at Next Gen. Her CMO leaned in close. Victoria, I think that might have been... I don't care who he thinks he is. She drained her champagne. Real investors dress like professionals. 30 feet away, 3 venture capitalists whispered urgently. One pulled up his phone, typed quickly. His face went pale. Oh no. What? I just Googled him. And? That's Elijah Brooks, Brooks Capital Ventures, $2.8 billion under management. The color drained from the second VC's face. The Brooks Capital? The one that made Sequoia look small last year? He's on the Forbes Midas list. Wasn't Next Gen looking for $150 million, which Brooks Capital could write as a single check? They looked across the room. Victoria was holding court, oblivious. Her CFO was frantically typing on his phone. The whispers spread, investor to investor, executive to executive. By the bar, a tech journalist opened Twitter, started typing. Holy shit! Her colleague looked over her shoulder. You're posting that now? This is going to blow up. The tweet went live. Just watch the Next Gen CEO refuse to shake hands with a prominent VC. She literally backed away and questioned his education. Full video coming. This is bad. In the first 5 minutes, 17 people retweeted it. Victoria remained oblivious. She was networking with a group of older white male investors. They nodded approvingly as she talked about maintaining standards. Too many companies are lowering the bar in the name of diversity, Victoria said. Next Gen succeeds because we hire the best. Absolutely, one agreed. Merit matters. Exactly. I just had to deal with someone who clearly didn't belong here. You have to maintain boundaries. Her assistant approached, phone screen facing out. Victoria, you need to see... Not now. Victoria didn't look. I'm networking. But it's important. I said not now. The assistant stepped back, face tight with worry. Across the ballroom, Elijah sat in the back row. He opened his tablet, pulled up Next Gen's due diligence file, the one his team had spent 3 weeks assembling. Revenue projections, inflated. Customer retention, declining. Leadership diversity, 0. He'd seen enough red flags in the financials. But he'd wanted to meet Victoria in person, give her the benefit of the doubt. People could surprise you. She had, just not in the way he'd hoped. He opened his messaging app, typed to David. Cancel the Next Gen deal, full stop. What happened? I'll explain later. Just kill it. You sure? The tech is solid. Elijah glanced across the room. Victoria was laughing, champagne held high, completely unaware that her lifeline had just evaporated. I'm sure. Brooks Capital doesn't invest in companies with toxic leadership. Understood. Elijah closed his tablet. He'd stay for the conference. He was scheduled to give tomorrow's keynote. The organizers had asked him to talk about ethical investing. He had some thoughts on that topic now. Victoria's voice carried across the room again. The problem with tech today is everyone thinks they deserve a seat at the table, but some of us actually earned it. Applause from her circle. Mostly older investors, the kind who'd never faced a closed door. A younger VC stood and walked out, then another. Within minutes, 5 people had left Victoria's presentation. Her CMO noticed. People are leaving. They're networking. It's fine. Victoria, I really think you should check Twitter. Stop being paranoid. She smoothed her dress. Now, where's that mystery investor the organizer mentioned? The one with billions? Her CMO and CFO exchanged glances. Neither answered. In the hallway, investors clustered in small groups, phones out, faces serious. Did you see the video? It's already at 50,000 views. NextGen's board is going to lose it. I heard 3 clients already called their reps. She's done. Nobody will touch that company now. Inside the ballroom, the conference organizer took the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll begin the main presentations in 10 minutes. Please take your seats. Victoria strode to the front row, confident, in control, ready to save her company. She had no idea she'd already destroyed it. Her phone sat in her bag, silenced. 23 missed calls from board members, 47 text messages, 362 Twitter mentions. The video had gone viral, 2 million views and climbing. Victoria stepped onto the stage. Applause scattered through the ballroom, weaker than she'd expected. Half the seats sat empty. Where did everyone go? She whispered to her CMO. Bathroom break, probably. The screen behind her lit up. Next Gen Analytics logo. Bold tagline. Data intelligence for tomorrow's leaders. Good afternoon. I'm Victoria Ashford, and I'm here to tell you why Next Gen is the future of enterprise data. In the third row, a tech journalist typed rapidly. Her article was already half written. The headline, Next Gen CEO's racist outburst caught on camera. Victoria clicked to her second slide. Revenue projections showing aggressive growth. As you can see, we're positioned for 300% expansion over the next 18 months. A hand shot up in the back. Young investor, South Asian. Yes? Victoria pointed at her. Can you speak to your diversity metrics? I noticed your leadership team is, we hire the best talent. Victoria's tone sharpened. Next Gen succeeds because we focus on merit, not quotas. We don't do diversity theater. Uncomfortable shifting throughout the room. 3 more people stood and walked out. Next question. Victoria's smile looked painted on. A venture capitalist in the 5th row raised his hand. Your cash burn rate suggests our finances are strong. Victoria cut him off. Anyone who understands complex financial instruments would see that clearly. The VC sat down, face flushed. In the back row, Elijah watched silently, taking notes. His expression revealed nothing. Victoria continued through her slides. Customer testimonials, technology advantages, market opportunity. Then Elijah raised his hand. Victoria's eyes landed on him. Her face hardened. I'm sorry, this session is for actual investors. Her voice projected across the ballroom. Not guests who wandered in. Gasps rippled through the audience. Elijah remained seated, calm. I just have a technical question about your data privacy compliance. Security, Victoria pointed at him. Can someone please escort this individual out? He's been harassing our team all day. A security guard near the door shifted uncomfortably, looked at the conference organizer. The organizer rushed to the stage, whispering urgently. Ms. Ashford, that's not... Victoria ignored her, spoke into the microphone. He became aggressive earlier when I politely declined his business card. I don't feel safe continuing with him in the room. Phone shot up, recording, the view count climbing in real time. Elijah stood slowly, gathered his tablet, made no sudden movements. "I apologize for any discomfort," his voice carried despite having no microphone. "I'll step out." He walked toward the exit, unhurried, dignified. As he passed the third row, a prominent female CEO stood, followed him out, then another investor, then 3 more. Victoria watched, confusion flickering across her face. As I was saying, 6 more people walked out. Her CMO stood in the wings, frantically waving his phone at her. Victoria powered through. NextGen's competitive advantage lies in... The journalist in the third row stood, closed her laptop, left. 10 more followed. The ballroom was now 2/3 empty. Victoria's voice cracked. "Where is everyone going? My presentation isn't finished." In the hallway, investors clustered around Elijah. "Mr. Brooks, I had no idea she would... Please accept our apologies for... Brooks Capital is still considering opportunities in this sector, right?" Elijah smiled politely. "I appreciate your concern. If you'll excuse me." He walked to the hotel's business center. Quiet. Private. He pulled out his phone. His notifications had exploded. Text messages, emails, missed calls. "David, just saw the video, I'm so sorry." His lawyer, "Call me ASAP. We may have grounds for legal action." Forbes editor, "Can I get a statement?" He ignored them all. Opened Twitter. The video had 17 million views. 4 hours. The hashtag NextGenRacism was trending #1 globally. Comments flooded in by the thousands. She literally called security on him for asking a question. The way she said "people like that" made my skin crawl. This is what racism looks like in Silicon Valley. And he stayed so calm. That composure. Elijah scrolled through them, his jaw tight. This wasn't about him anymore. This was bigger. He clicked on a thread from a former NextGen employee, black woman, engineer. "I worked at NextGen for 8 months. Victoria called me articulate in my first meeting, asked if I was a cultural fit at least 5 times. I was paid $22,000 less than my white colleague who started the same day. When I asked for equal pay, they said my communication style wasn't leadership material." The thread had 43 more tweets, each one detailing a pattern. Other former employees joined in. Asian engineer, Latino developer, black marketing manager. All the same stories, all the same treatment. Back in the ballroom, Victoria finished her presentation to 73 people. The applause was golf clap polite. She stepped off stage, face flushed. "What the hell just happened?" Her CFO thrust his phone at her. "This is what happened." Victoria stared at the screen. The video. Her own face twisted in disgust. Her own voice. "I don't shake hands with people who probably can't even spell algorithm." The view counter ticked upward as she watched. 18 million, 18.1, 18.2. Oh my God. It gets worse. Her CMO pulled up Twitter. "Former employees are coming forward. They're saying this is a pattern." Victoria scrolled through the threads. Her hands shook. "These are lies. Disgruntled employees. We should sue." "Victoria." Her CFO's voice was ice. 3 of our biggest clients just canceled their contracts. That's $45 million in annual revenue. Gone. They can't do that. They cited the morality clause. They absolutely can. Her phone rang. Board member. She declined. It rang again. Different board member. Declined. "They're demanding an emergency meeting," her CMO said quietly. "Tonight." "This is insane. I did nothing wrong. I was just..." "Just what?" Her CFO's composure cracked. "Just incredibly racist to one of the most powerful investors in Silicon Valley?" "I didn't know who he was." "That's not a defense, Victoria. That makes it worse." Her assistant appeared, face pale. Your 1 o'clock meeting canceled, and your 3 o'clock, and the dinner with Lightspeed Ventures. Rescheduled? No, canceled. They said not interested in moving forward. Victoria's legs felt weak. She sat heavily in a conference room chair. This will blow over. These things always do. In a week. Victoria. Her CMO's voice was gentle, pitying. This isn't blowing over. You're trending above the president, above the Super Bowl. 23 million people have watched you refuse to shake a black man's hand. I was under stress. The company is struggling and... Stop! Her CFO held up a hand. Every word you say right now is being recorded by someone. Just stop. Victoria's phone buzzed. Email from the board chair. Subject line, emergency meeting required. She opened it. The board of directors requires your presence tonight at 6 p.m. This meeting is mandatory. Failure to attend will result in immediate termination for cause. Her hands trembled. She'd founded this company, built it from nothing, 8 years of her life. We should issue an apology, her assistant suggested quietly. I'm not apologizing for having standards. Victoria. Her CFO slammed his hand on the table. Your standards just cost us everything. The company is toxic now. No investor will touch us. No client wants their name associated with us. And you... He stopped, took a breath. You need to resign. Tonight. Before they fire you. Victoria's face went white. I built this company. You also destroyed it. Her CFO's voice was flat. Final. In less than 5 hours. Outside, the sun set over San Francisco Bay. Inside the Fairmont, conference attendees whispered in clusters, checking phones, shaking heads. Tomorrow was supposed to be the keynote. The mystery investor revealing himself. Everyone is buzzing about who it might be. Some had already guessed. The organizer stood in the empty ballroom, phone pressed to her ear. Yes, Mr. Brooks's keynote is still scheduled for 9 a.m. No, he hasn't canceled. She hung up, looked at the rows of empty chairs. Tomorrow's session was going to be standing room only. Everyone wanted to hear what Elijah Brooks had to say. 9 a.m. The ballroom was packed. Every seat filled. People lined the walls. Cameras from TechCrunch, Bloomberg, The Verge. Everyone wanted to witness this. Victoria sat in the back corner, baseball cap pulled low, sunglasses indoors. Her CFO had insisted she attend. You need to see this. The conference organizer took the stage. The room fell silent. Good morning. Before we begin today's sessions, we have a very special keynote address. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Our speaker has revolutionized venture capital. His fund has invested $2.8 billion in transformative companies. He's been on the Forbes Midas list for 3 consecutive years. Victoria's stomach dropped. No. Please, no. His portfolio includes 17 unicorns. Companies you use every day. Technologies that changed industries. The screen behind the organizer lit up. Logos appeared. Major tech companies, household names. Combined valuation, $12 billion. Victoria's hands went cold. He's known for walking away from profitable deals when leadership doesn't align with his values. The audience leaned forward. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the founder of Brooks Capital Ventures, Elijah Brooks. The room erupted. Standing ovation, thunderous applause. Elijah walked onto the stage. Same black t-shirt, same jeans, same quiet confidence. Victoria couldn't breathe. Her vision tunneled. The man she'd refused to shake hands with. The man she'd called uneducated. The man she'd had security remove. He controlled billions. He was the mystery investor, the one who could have saved her company with a single check. Her CFO leaned close, whispered, That's the investor we needed. $150 million. He could have written it without blinking. Victoria's phone trembled in her hands. She Googled him frantically. Forbes profile loaded. Net worth, $1.2 billion. Education, MIT Computer Science, summa cum laude. Background, built and sold 2 startups before age 30. Known for ethical investing, supporting diverse founders, walking away from toxic leadership. A photo showed him at last year's Forbes Summit, standing between the CEOs of Google and Microsoft. Equal footing. She'd treated him like trash. The applause finally died down. Elijah smiled, waited for complete silence. Thank you. I want to talk today about what truly matters in venture capital. His voice was steady, clear, no notes. I've been fortunate, very fortunate, but I've also been underestimated, judged, dismissed. Eyes in the audience flickered toward Victoria. She sank lower in her seat. I've been mistaken for catering staff at events where I was the keynote speaker. I've had people clutch their bags when I enter elevators. I've been asked where I really went to school, because surely not MIT. Knowing laughter from the crowd. I've had my intelligence questioned by people who never asked about my background. I've been called aggressive for speaking calmly. I've been told I'm a diversity hire at companies I own. Victoria's face burned. Every word was about yesterday. Everyone knew it. True sophistication isn't about appearances. It's about recognizing talent regardless of packaging. The audience nodded. Someone said yes, audibly. I've walked away from hundreds of millions in deals because leadership showed me who they really are. And I'll do it again. Every single time. Massive applause. Several people stood. The best investments I've made, they weren't in perfect pitch decks or impressive pedigrees. They were leaders who valued character over comfort, who built diverse teams because it made them stronger, not because it looked good in press releases. He paused. Let the words settle. Yesterday, someone asked me why diversity matters in tech. Here's why. The best ideas come from different perspectives. The strongest companies embrace discomfort. The smartest leaders know their blind spots. More applause. And the worst mistake any founder can make? Judging a book by its cover, because you never know who's sitting across from you. The room understood. Heads turned subtly toward the back, toward Victoria. Brooks Capital just closed our largest fund, $2 billion for our next investments. We're looking at the data analytics sector, healthcare applications, enterprise solutions. Victoria's heart stopped. Those were next-gen's markets. We found some promising companies, incredible technology, ethical leadership, teams that look like the world they're serving. He smiled. We're excited about the future. The applause was deafening. Victoria stood shakily, pushed toward the exit. People stepped aside, creating a path. Silent, judging. In the hallway, she cornered Elijah as he left the stage. Investors swarmed him, but she shoved through. Mr. Brooks, please. I think there's been a terrible misunderstanding. Elijah turned. His expression was polite, professional, cold. There's no misunderstanding, Ms. Ashford. I was stressed. The company is struggling. I didn't mean, you showed me exactly who you are. His voice was quiet, final. I believe you. Please. NextGen needs this investment. Just one meeting. Let me explain. Ms. Ashford. He didn't raise his voice, didn't need to. I make investment decisions based on leadership quality, character, values. He adjusted his cufflinks. The same gesture from yesterday. Yesterday, you demonstrated all three very clearly. But Brooks Capital will not be investing in next-gen analytics. Not now. Not ever. This decision is final and non-negotiable. He turned away. 3 investors immediately approached him, blocking Victoria's path. She stood in the hallway, alone. The man who could have saved everything walking away, just like she'd dismissed him yesterday. Her phone rang, board chair. She didn't answer. It rang again, and again. The walls felt like they were closing in. 6 p.m. The emergency board meeting began in a conference room overlooking the bay. Victoria sat at the head of the table. 7 board members on video screens, all faces stone cold. The board chair spoke first. Victoria, we've reviewed the situation. The video has 32 million views. That's more than the Super Bowl halftime show. It's being taken out of context. Context? Another board member cut in. We watched it from 6 different angles. There's no context that makes this acceptable. A third board member pulled up a spreadsheet. 3 major clients terminated contracts today. Combined annual revenue, 45 million. 2 more are reviewing their relationship with us. That's another 30 million at risk. Victoria's hands clenched under the table. Our stock valuation has collapsed. This morning we were worth 400 million. Tonight, analysts are saying 180. Maybe less. The market will recover. Victoria, Stanford rescinded your guest lecture invitation. The Women in Tech Leadership Conference removed you from their speaker lineup. Forbes pulled you from their most powerful women list. Each sentence landed like a hammer. And that's just today. Wait until you see tomorrow's news cycle. Her CFO unmuted himself. I've had 12 investor meetings scheduled for next week. All canceled. No rescheduling. Just not interested in moving forward. The board chair leaned forward on his screen. Victoria, you understand the severity here? I made a mistake. I'll issue an apology. An apology? The chair's laugh was bitter. You called one of the most respected investors in Silicon Valley uneducated. You questioned his right to be at a professional event. You had security escort him out for asking a legitimate question. I didn't know who he was. Silence. Then the chair spoke slowly, deliberately. That's not a defense. That makes it infinitely worse. Victoria felt the ground shifting beneath her. If you'd known he was a billionaire, you would have treated him differently. You're admitting your respect is transactional, based on perceived wealth and status. That's not what I meant. We've also been contacted by the EEOC. Another board member jumped in. They're launching an investigation into NextGen's hiring practices. Apparently, former employees have been very vocal about their experiences. Victoria's stomach dropped. They're alleging a pattern. Not just one incident, years of discrimination. Her phone buzzed. She glanced down. Email from her attorney. Subject: lawsuit filed, class action. 12 former employees. Discrimination, hostile work environment, wrongful termination. The board has made a decision. The chair's voice turned formal. Cold. You have 2 options. Resign effective immediately with a standard severance package, or we terminate you for cause and you leave with nothing. You can't do this. I founded this company. You also destroyed it. The chair's face filled her screen. In less than 24 hours, you turned NextGen from a struggling but viable company into a toxic asset no one will touch. I need time to fix. There is no fixing this. Every second you remain CEO, we lose more value, more clients, more credibility. Victoria looked around the virtual table. 7 faces. Not one showed sympathy. If I resign, what happens to my equity? You keep your vested shares. Current value, approximately 14 million. Down from 42 million yesterday. $28 million evaporated because of one video. And if I don't resign? We terminate for cause, morality clause violation. You forfeit unvested equity and bonuses. You leave with roughly 3 million. The math was brutal, simple. You have until 9 a.m. tomorrow to decide. We recommend resignation. It looks better for everyone. The screen went black. Meeting ended. Victoria sat alone in the conference room. City lights glittered below. She'd had dinner reservations tonight at Gary Danko, celebrating Next Gen's bright future. Her phone rang. Her husband. "Victoria, we need to talk." His voice was wrong, distant. "Not now." "My firm called. They're concerned about association. My partners think we should consider separation." "What?" "I filed for divorce. Papers will be served tomorrow. I'm sorry." The line went dead. Victoria stared at the phone. Marriage, gone. Company, gone. Reputation, gone. Her assistant knocked softly, entered with a box. "Building security asked me to help you clear your office tonight. They want your badge and laptop before you leave." "I haven't resigned yet." "The board sent an email. They've locked your access, effective immediately." Victoria stood on shaking legs, walked to her corner office. Her assistant followed with the empty box. Photos came off the wall, awards into the box, personal items, 8 years packed up in 30 minutes. She left through the back exit. No goodbye, no final speech. Just a cardboard box and a baseball cap pulled low. Outside, a photographer caught her anyway. That photo would be on every tech blog by morning. 3 weeks later, the EEOC investigation went public. Federal investigators had subpoenaed 5 years of next-gen emails, hiring records, and performance reviews. What they found made national news. The press conference filled CNN's morning slot. "Our investigation reveals a systematic pattern of discrimination at next-gen analytics." The EEOC director stood behind a podium, flanked by attorneys. "We've identified 47 instances of racial bias in hiring, promotion, and compensation decisions." Reporters leaned forward, cameras flashing. The numbers are stark. People of color represented 47% of qualified applicants. Only 3% were hired. Of those hired, none were promoted to management in 5 years. A slide appeared on the screen behind her. Statistical analysis, pay gaps, promotion rates. The disparity was undeniable. "We also found email evidence of explicit bias." Another slide. Victoria's own words in black and white. "Let's keep the team culture fit. You know what I mean. Can we find someone more polished?" Written after interviewing a black candidate with a PhD. "I don't think clients will relate to him." About a Latino sales candidate. The room erupted with questions. By noon, 12 former employees had filed a class action lawsuit. By evening, the number grew to 19. The lead plaintiff was Jasmine Williams, 28 years old, black, former marketing manager. Her story led every news outlet. "I was the only black woman on my team." Jasmine sat across from a CNN anchor, composed but angry. "Victoria told me in my first week that I needed to tone down my style. She said my natural hair was distracting and unprofessional." "What happened when you complained?" "I was fired 2 weeks later. They said I wasn't a cultural fit." Jasmine's jaw tightened. "That phrase, it's code. Everyone knows what it means." Michael Carter told his story to Bloomberg. Asian American, senior engineer, passed over for promotion 5 times despite top performance reviews. "Victoria told me Asians are good at executing, not leading. She said it to my face, in front of my team." Carlos Rivera spoke to TechCrunch. Latino developer, paid $32,000 less than his white colleague. Same role. Hired the same month, identical qualifications. "When I asked for equal pay, they said my communication style wasn't leadership material. I have a master's degree from Stanford. My colleague had a bachelor's from a state school." The pattern was overwhelming, undeniable. 6 months later, the trial began. Federal courthouse, downtown San Francisco. Media circus outside. Protesters with signs. "Justice for next-gen victims," and "Racism has consequences." Victoria arrived in a cheap suit. No designer bag, no confidence. She'd lost 30 pounds. Her hair showed gray roots. Inside, the prosecution presented their case with surgical precision. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury. The prosecutor stood before the screen. You've seen the video that started this, but that was just one day, one moment. We're here to show you this every day, for years. Exhibit A, the conference video, played in full. The jury watched in silence. Several shook their heads. The prosecutor paused it at key moments. Notice her body language, the recoil, the disgust. This is visceral prejudice. Exhibit B, email trail, hundreds of messages. Victoria's words projected 10 feet high. A pattern emerged with each email: coded language, dog whistles, explicit bias. One juror, a black woman in her 50s, took notes steadily. Exhibit C, statistical analysis. An economist testified for 2 hours. Charts, graphs, probability models. The likelihood of this hiring pattern occurring without bias is less than 0.01%. Statistically impossible. Exhibit D, comparison footage. The prosecution had gathered security camera footage from the conference. Victoria baking hands enthusiastically with 15 white investors. Laughing, warm, open body language. Then, the clip with Elijah. Same event, minutes apart. The contrast was devastating. She had no problem shaking hands that day. The prosecutor let the silence hang. Just not with him. Victoria's defense attorney tried damage control, argued stress, market pressure, misunderstanding. It fell flat. Then Victoria took the stand. Her attorney had advised against it. She insisted. Ms. Ashford, the prosecutor approached slowly. Why didn't you shake Mr. Brooks' hand? I don't recall exactly. You don't recall? We have 6 camera angles. Shall we play it again? No, I was distracted, stressed about the presentation. You shook 15 other hands that hour. You weren't too stressed for them. Victoria's face reddened. You called security on Mr. Brooks. Why? He made me uncomfortable. How? He was standing 5 feet away, silent, hands at his sides. What was uncomfortable? The way he was... Yes? He was what? Silence. Ms. Ashford, please complete your sentence. He was what? I don't know. Something felt off. Something felt off. The prosecutor nodded slowly. Can you explain what, specifically? Victoria couldn't, or wouldn't. You told him he probably couldn't spell algorithm. Had you asked about his education? No, but... So you assumed. Based on what information? His appearance. He wasn't dressed professionally. Mr. Brooks was wearing a $500 Tom Ford shirt and $1,000 shoes. But you saw something else, didn't you? Victoria's lawyer objected. The judge overruled. I saw someone who didn't fit. Didn't fit what, Ms. Ashford? Didn't fit your image of what a successful investor looks like? Victoria's hands trembled. Elijah testified on day 4. Calm, factual, no anger. When I extended my hand, she looked at it like I was offering her something toxic, and his voice was steady. She put both hands behind her back. That's a deliberate choice, a conscious rejection. How did that make you feel? Honestly, for about 30 seconds I doubted myself. Wondered if maybe I was too forward, too casual, too black. Several jurors looked down. That's what this kind of treatment does. It makes you question your own reality, your own worth. The defense attorney cross-examined. Mr. Brooks, isn't it possible you're being oversensitive? Elijah's response was measured, powerful. I've built a billion-dollar company while being told I'm not sophisticated enough. I've been mistaken for staff at events I'm keynoting. I've had people ask, who let you in at companies I own? Am I oversensitive, or is the bar for what I have to endure just set that much higher? The courtroom was silent. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. They returned with a verdict. Guilty on all counts. Federal civil rights violations, corporate discrimination, perjury, fraud. The judge read the sentence 2 weeks later. Ms. Ashford, your behavior wasn't a mistake. It was a pattern spanning years. You had every advantage: wealth, education, opportunity. You used those advantages to demean and discriminate. Victoria stood, face pale. You showed Mr. Brooks and others that in your eyes, they were less than human. This sentence reflects not just what you did, but who you showed yourself to be. 18 months in federal prison, 3 years supervised release, $250,000 fine, 500 hours of community service teaching diversity awareness, permanent ban from serving as a corporate officer. Victoria swayed. Her lawyer caught her elbow. Additionally, you are personally liable for $8 million in damages. The corporate veil is pierced due to the egregious and personal nature of your conduct. The gavel fell. Outside, the plaintiffs gathered on the courthouse steps. Jasmine Williams spoke to the cameras, confident, vindicated. This isn't just about money. It's about accountability. It's about saying this behavior has consequences. Reporters shouted questions. What's next for you? I'm starting my own company, and we're hiring. Behind her, Michael Carter and Carlos Rivera stood with their attorneys, all smiling. Justice had been served. 6 months after sentencing, Elijah Brooks stood at a podium in the San Francisco Convention Center. Behind him, a screen displayed photos of 50 diverse founders, their companies, their teams, their success stories. The Tech Diversity Summit drew 2,000 attendees, investors, founders, students, all here to talk about change. That day at the conference, I had a choice. Elijah's voice was calm, reflective. I could respond with anger, or I could respond with purpose. The audience leaned forward. Walking away with dignity was more powerful than any confrontation, because I knew something Victoria Ashford didn't. He paused. Excellence doesn't need to prove itself to prejudice. It just needs to outlast it. Applause filled the hall. 6 months ago, Brooks Capital launched a $500 million fund dedicated to underrepresented founders. Today, we've invested in 23 companies. 60% are led by people of color. Combined valuation, $4.1 billion. The screen changed. Success stories. Companies that changed industries. Jobs created. Lives changed. 5 of them are now unicorns, worth over $1 billion each. More applause. Victoria Ashford told me I probably couldn't spell algorithm. These founders are writing the algorithms that power your phones, your cars, your healthcare. In the third row, Jasmine Williams sat with her co-founders. Her startup, a diversity recruiting platform, had just closed a $15 million Series A, funded by Brooks Capital. She'd used her settlement money to start it. Now she employed 60 people, 70% from underrepresented backgrounds. She tried to silence me, Jasmine told a reporter later. Now I have a microphone, and I'm using it. Michael Carter sat 2 rows behind her. His AI company had raised $20 million. He'd hired 70 employees, intentionally diverse, deliberately inclusive. Victoria said Asians couldn't lead, he'd told TechCrunch. I'm leading 80 people now, and we're changing an industry. Carlos Rivera wasn't at the summit. He was at Google headquarters, running a team of 50 engineers. He'd donated his settlement to a scholarship fund for Latino computer science students. 12 students had received full rides so far. On stage, Elijah continued. Racism isn't always burning crosses and slurs. Sometimes it's a refused handshake, an assumption about intelligence, a question about where you really belong. Heads nodded throughout the audience. But here's what people like Victoria don't understand. Their hate is temporary. Our excellence is permanent. The applause was thunderous. Every door they close, we build our own building. Every investment they refuse, we fund ourselves. Every time they say we don't belong, we create spaces where everyone does. The screen showed statistics. Black founders receive less than 2% of VC funding, despite comprising 13% of the population. Companies with diverse leadership outperform peers by 35%. Discrimination costs the U.S. economy $64 billion annually. These numbers should make you angry, Elijah said. But anger without action is just noise. So here's what we're doing. He outlined new initiatives, mentorship programs, investment funds, policy changes. 47 tech conferences had adopted anti-discrimination policies, inspired by what happened to Victoria. We're calling it the Ashford effect. When consequences are so severe, so public, that behavior changes industry-wide. Victoria herself was barely mentioned. She'd been released from federal prison 2 weeks ago after serving 14 months. She worked at a Target in Daly City now. Cashier, minimum wage. Her LinkedIn profile claimed she was a diversity consultant. She had 0 clients. Every inquiry ended the same way. Someone would Google her name, see the video, decline. She'd tried a comeback. A Medium blog about learning and growth. The comments destroyed her. She deleted it within hours. Some people say she's suffered enough, a reporter had asked Elijah last week. Do you agree? I don't think about Victoria Ashford anymore, he replied. I think about the 12 employees she discriminated against who now run successful companies. I think about the 50 founders we've funded who might have been dismissed by someone like her. That's where my energy goes. Now on stage, he delivered his closing message. To anyone watching who's been judged before speaking, who's had their intelligence questioned, who's been told they don't belong. The room went silent. Your worth isn't determined by their bias. It's proven by your character, your work, your refusal to shrink. Young founders in the audience wiped their eyes. They will underestimate you. Let them. Then show them what underestimated looks like when it has a billion-dollar exit. Standing ovation. 2,000 people on their feet. The screen changed one final time. Text appeared. If this story resonated with you, share it. Not for views, but because someone needs to hear it. Comment below with your own experience. You're not alone. Subscribe to Black Voices for more stories where justice prevails. Because the only thing necessary for discrimination to thrive is for good people to do nothing. 3 questions appeared on screen. Would Victoria have treated Elijah differently if he'd worn an expensive suit? Have you ever witnessed discrimination and stayed silent? What will you do the next time you see it happen? The final image faded in. Excellence is the best response to prejudice. Elijah Brooks. The lights came up. The conversation had only just begun.
At Black Voices Uncut, we don't polish away the pain or water down the message. We tell it like it is because the truth deserves nothing less. If today's story spoke to you, click like, join the conversation in the comments, and subscribe so you'll be here for the next Uncut Voice.